It's Monday night. Time to do some Monday Night Live. Let's see who all's checking in tonight, since most everybody is working from home or lockdown is going into effect in Dallas County. Tomorrow, Austin and San Antonio are going to go into lockdown. Hey, girls, you ride? Noah, what's up? Yep, so, might be easier for you guys to make any lives now. So, we'll let some people log in. Hey, Mommy Cassie, what's up? How'd the mashed taters for dinner go? So I'll wait for a little bit. Emma, hey, Joseph. Let people get logged in. Let them get notified that I am indeed live. I'm not a clone or cyborg. So, why don't you guys tell me how things are going with isolation while we're waiting for people to check in here. Let me know what you're doing to keep from going crazy and insane. Or not. I'll just sit here for a minute, let people log in. Gotta wait for Claudia. Claudia's always running late. She'll be mad at me for picking on her. Liana, how's things at MMI, or the mall? Not MMI, but the big mall. You guys doing okay? Yeah, I understand. Cycle suspension has been extremely busy. Everybody is sending their stuff right now to work on since nothing else. So, Emma, what do you do? Where do you work? Yeah, definitely let them get that sunshine and free time, free play. I read a really interesting letter from somebody who'd been in education for over 20 years, and they said, the letter was basically saying, instead of getting all of these lessons and doing all this stuff at home during this time, this administrator said, you know what, take time to read books with your kids, play games with them, watch movies, sing songs while you cook and all these things. And he said, you're not teachers. Be parents, spend family time. Kind of was echoing back to the days of the 40s and 50s and earlier when there was no electricity, in the 1800s, where moms basically, took care of their kids and taught them essential skills. And then they went to school for reading, writing, arithmetic. Anyway, I thought it was very interesting. It was a different take about what to do with your younger kids right now. So, Courtney is GM of us. I'm helping her out until she gets more reliable help. Okay, well, hey, got a paycheck coming in, right? Let me see. I have to go to school tomorrow and get plans for kids. I'm a sped aide. God bless you, Mommy Casey. I do know that districts in Texas are choosing to go to online lessons and things like that. So, and I'm actually supposed to be taking a long-term maternity sub-leave for a teacher that just had her baby. And so Northwest ISD is working on getting the curriculum together to be able to provide those online lessons to get through the end of the school year. Basically, the last grading period, the last 6 weeks. So fortunately, I don't have to go to any meetings or anything like that, and everything will be provided for me. It's just that once a teacher takes that FMLA maternity leave, then by law, they cannot have any contact with school until the leave is up. So I'm it. Hey, Reagan. Guess what, Reagan? My computer did some crazy things with our live, and it actually somehow saved the video to my desktop, which I am going to try to get uploaded to YouTube tonight after we finish here. So we'll see how that goes. But I may still have that video and be able to publish it. Husband is in the oil field. Oh, work for him is actually starting to pick up, which is weird. Yeah, that is weird. Hey, Sarah Gage, how you doing? Still only 7:34, so right now you guys get to listen to me just kind of babble about current events and what's going on right now. So throw whatever at me and let me hear what you got going on. Fortunately, in case you were wondering, I don't stock up on toilet paper, but because there are only two of us in the house, I have plenty right now. And so every time I've gone to the store, there hasn't been any. But fortunately, hey, Claw, fortunately, we are not in dire need of it. And it's not like it's not going to be manufactured. It just has to get manufactured and then transported to the stores. But for right now, our toilet paper situation is okay. So, anyway, still going to wait a few more minutes here. Let some other people figure out we're live and whatnot. But let me see. What else can I babble about until we get a few more people on? Because usually I like to start when we've got about 10 people or more that have checked in. But hey, they can always watch it later, right? How's working from home going, Claw? And Reagan, what are you doing right now? Oh, wait, I know what you're doing. You did do a live with some singing and some guitar work. I caught a little bit of that. Very nice. I do like what people are doing with Instagram Live and some of the other live options. Even music artists are, hey, Angie, nice of you to join. Some music artists are going live doing impromptu concerts from their home studios and stuff like that, which I think is really, really cool. Skippy! What's up? What's up? So, we got 8. I guess we can start and people can watch later and whatnot. So tonight's topic, this hit me last week actually, during last week's Monday night. I have never told you guys my story of qualifying for Loretta Lynn's Nationals. Claw. Some things are easier in person and on my Mongo monitors. Yeah. I understand. Ashley, good to see you. So let me set up, give you a little background information on my story. Let's see. My progression of motorcycles, dirt bikes, because this was actually within the first 4 years that I started racing. And my dad had been an enduro rider in Wisconsin, and we moved down to Texas. And at that point, well, before we moved to Texas, we lived, oh, yeah, definitely, Skip. We'll get your version for 30 years later. Dang, I'm old. But, you know what? I got good miles on me. We had dirt bikes when we lived in Wisconsin. My brother and I actually started out with the little mini bikes, the Briggs & Stratton lawnmower engines, ripcord. And then Dad came home with a TS 185, and that dang near caused a divorce in the house. Where we lived, there was this gargantuan field behind our house. And I mean, it was huge. I can't even tell you how many acres. A couple of really good hills. We would go back there sledding when in the winter. There were lots of ponds. There were lots of dirt trails. There was a set of railroad tracks you had to cross to get to the other side. So we would actually go out in the field and ride for a couple hours. And after Dad got the TS 185, my brother got a TS 125. Wait, let me back up. My mother made the decree that if we were all going to be riding, because my brother and I still had the little ripcord mini bikes, and we were riding in the fields out back and stuff, she made the decree that if we were going to keep doing this, because we were leaving her at the house on Saturday and Sunday all by herself, that Dad was going to get her a motorcycle and he was going to teach her to ride. Which was interesting because we were in the car while Dad was teaching Mom how to drive a standard, and it was not a pleasant experience by any means. It was terrible. Of course, I wouldn't want to have been Mom trying to learn how to drive a standard or drive a standard with 2 kids and a pain in the butt husband in the car with her. Anyway, so when she made that decree, my dad decided to go find a TS 125 that my mom and my brother would share. Of course, I was still pretty little. And so I stayed on my little mini bike. And I did learn how to ride. I learned to ride the 125, which is funny because my dad then graduated. He bought a PE 250. So this would be probably 77-ish, I think, maybe. And so my brother graduated to the 185, and I graduated to the 125 with Mom still. Hey, Bradley. And then, of course, there was the rule, if you can start it, you can ride it. And to give you guys an idea, I know I'm short, but I was even shorter as a kid. I was always the first kid in line in school because we always lined up by height. So I was always first, or very close to first. And so I was small. I was teeny tiny. And I remember that PE sitting on a crate in the garage. We're still in Wisconsin. And I said, Daddy, let me try to start it. And he's like, oh, whatever. He was like, he didn't think I could start it. Because, you know, if you start it, you can ride it. So I get on it. And it's a good thing I was holding on to the bars. That first kick, if you know anything about these old PEs, they were ornery. They had some fire and some snort in them. Well, I didn't get all the way through the stroke on the kick. I got about, I don't know, a little past halfway, and it kicked me back. And I was so small that my butt went way up in the air. And if I hadn't been holding on to the handlebars, woo, hey, Boney, what's up? I'd have probably gone over the bars. I'd have done a high Y-endo without being in motion. So that made me mad. And I was probably, I might have been 10, 8 or 10. Hey, Rocky. And so that, of course, just angered me. Hey, Bobby. So I decided, well, fine, kick me up like that. So the next one, I kicked it. Hey, Robert. I kicked it all the way through. And that sucker fired up. That old Henri PE 250 fired up. And my dad's eyes, this big around, because he knew what that meant. He knew that he was going to have to let me ride it. And so I was like, that's right, I'm going to get this thing started. So I said, Daddy, I can ride it. And hey, Bobby. So we went out behind the house, and he had to hold the bike up. And, you know, I let the clutch out, got the bike going, and I went around in circles. And I remember coming around one time going, catch me next time, I'm going to stop. I'm yelling over my shoulder, and then I come back around, and Dad's got to catch me. Hey, Becca. So that was riding the PE 250. I never rode it again, but I started it, so I rode it. So that kind of gives you an idea of my my little orneriness, if you want to put it that way. So, hey, 316 photograph. We moved down to Texas, and my father goes into business with my uncle, who's based in California, over a motorcycle oil, a two-stroke oil. And back then, one of the number one two-stroke oils was Blendzall. And we all loved the smell of Blendzall. And motorcycle, shut up, Joe, and motorcycle exhaust and stuff, the two strokes. It was an awesome smell in the woods. So anyway, my uncle was looking to invest in it, and my dad was like, all right, I'll get in on this down here in Texas. And so Dad started checking out all the different racing organizations and discovered TCCRA, Texas Cross Country Racing Association. And at this point, y'all, I can't remember. I think he still had the 250. I'm not even sure at this point. I know we moved down here with the 185 and the 125 because I remember my brother and I riding it at Flying P in Weatherford before we discovered racing. So he may have had the 250 then. So anyway, he tells me, and I am just freshly graduated high school in 1982, tells me, Laura, because back then I wasn't LJ yet, this is fun, you got to try this. And we had gotten my mom a DR 100. So we were doing some basic trail riding, and I don't know if we'd been up to Munster yet, but I know we'd been to Flying P several times. Anyway, so I ride my mom's little DR 100, and I race it at Oak Hill. That was before Oak Hill revamped the property and turned the motocross track portion of it into the national caliber track and everything else. And so raced it there. And then Thank you, Brad. Then I raced it at Rocky Ridge, and I crashed in both races, and I ripped the headlight off both times. Looked at my dad, and I said, Daddy, if we're going to keep doing this, I have to have a real dirt bike. So that's when he went to Honda Town the next week, comes home with a brand new XR200 and a brand new CR80, and I'm sure he got out the door under $3,000 for both combined. So that was my first real dirt bike, was 82 or 83 CR80. Then even though I was 5'4", I still was a little too big for the 80. I raced it for the rest of that season, and next thing I know, my dad worked next door to Irving Suzuki. He comes home with a PE 175 for me. And so I raced that the next year. I did really well. And then after that, next thing I know, he plays prank on me. I was going to school in Abilene at McMurray University. And so I drove home to meet Mom and Dad at every race, and if we were going riding. And my dad was giving me grief that he had let our friend Dusty ride my bike. And I was very selfish about my bikes. And I also knew how hard Dusty was on stuff. And I was all mad about him letting people ride my bike and whatnot. And we meet at Rocky Ridge to go riding. And next thing I know, he says, your bike's over there behind the bush. And I'm like, what happened to it? Who did what? Who wrecked it? Blah, blah, blah. Go around the bush, there's a brand new 1985 KTM 125 sitting there. And Dad was very much about always supporting the small businessman, the smaller dealer, and things like that. So I don't even know. He had met Les Stoltz, and so Les was like the lone KTM dealer in Fort Worth. I don't know about Dallas at that point because I was kind of oblivious. I was busy living most of the year in Abilene. But Brad and Ashley, you'll appreciate this because this is where I met Bert, and this is where I met Dean Lane and Rusty King, and gosh, I can't remember who all else that we all rode out of the shop. Randall Tarter, I knew. So Dad had decided to put me on that KTM. This is the tallest bike on the market, y'all. And my inseam is short. I have no legs. We know this. Yeah, Todd Tarver came a little later, Brad, because Todd's a little bit younger than I am by, I think, about 10 years, a little bit. So Todd was still, he wasn't quite there yet as far as riding out of the shop that first couple of years. Anyway, so Dad and Les decided that they would help me out because I couldn't touch the ground. They didn't bother to tell me. They raised the forks up in the clamps as far as they possibly could. And every couple of races, they would just drop them a little and not tell me and drop them some more. Until the last time, and it was at Whitney. I remember this clearly. It's the first time I almost used the F word with my father. And I was falling left and right because all of a sudden the bike was turning very, very well. Better than I was expecting. And so I was not in position and I'd fall and stall and everything. I came back from a practice lap and I was mad. Ooh, I was mad. And Dad's giggling because, he knew why. They had that last jump was probably over a quarter of an inch. They just finally brought the forks flush down into the clamps. And then he explained it to me and I was like, you couldn't have told me about this. Nah, you didn't need to know. And at that time, guys, I graduated high school, I was 17, 18, so I was 19. Dad said, you're going to ride it. So I said, okay, I'll go ride it. No problem. I didn't know any better. So for everybody who thinks you got to touch the ground, no, you don't. I haven't touched the ground since 1985, y'all, really and truly. So it's overrated. I can tippy toe every once in a while, but hey, whatever. And yes, I do fall over on occasion because I go to put my foot down when I stop and there's nothing. And I just tump over. But, oh well, I've gotten used to it. I don't care. I just laugh. Whatever. So that's how I got on the KTM. Now, what you guys got to understand is, of course, KTM was an unknown brand here in the U.S. In Europe, it was huge, dominating all the European motocrosses and everything else, dominating the off-road scene and everything. And hey, K-Gills, thanks for joining. So the thing about the KTM, especially that year, is that was the first year for inverted forks on a dirt bike. And everybody gave me a lot of crap for being on my European quote-unquote piece of junk. But the thing is, that bike came stock with XL rims, Magura grips, Magura whatever, Brembo brakes, the top of the line as far as chain, everything. All the fit and finish was top of the line. It was stuff everybody else bought aftermarket and put on their bikes, and my bike came with it. That bike was bulletproof. It was an amazing bike. But it was the fact that it had the inverted forks and the WP. At that point, it was still white power. It hadn't switched to WP. Suspension, the shock. And so I had front disc, still had rear drum. And it was extremely innovative at the time. So innovative that now, if you're looking to buy that year of 125 from KTM to restore, you can't find one. It's very hard to find one to restore. It's even harder to find the parts for it, which, by the way, I am in the process of restoring one. And with a lot of help from Todd Tarver, by the way. And financially, we've hit some hard times, had to replace stuff on the trailer, had to replace stuff on the truck. So we are now to the point where we're at the big dollar ticket items to replace on the KTM. But we'll get there. I've already got the frame powder coated. I have all the essential parts ready to go. Hey, J-Web, because I want to restore that bike because I had one very similar to it. I had the MXC. What I'm restoring is an MX. There's not much difference to them. Anyway, so that's how I got on the KTM. And from there, in 1986, my light bulb had gone off and I started riding very well. And so I was battling Pat Milliken for the Ladies Open Championship. And I've told you guys the story about how we got changed from being called Powder Puff. It's a blank screen. They might need to refresh, Skippy. I don't know. I've got signal. Sometimes, who knows, we might all be on the internet and be sucking, what do you call it? Whatever. But tell them to hit refresh. Tell them to leave and come back in. I don't know. So, but again, this will be available for 24 hours, and then I'll upload it on YouTube later if they want to watch, or they can just listen. So anyway, so I'm on the KTM 125. I'm riding out of Les the Vulture Stoltz's shop, and Les had told me that I was allowed to, the only woman I was allowed to ride with was Dee Wood. Other than that, I could only ride with guys. So I spent a lot of time riding with Ashley's daddy and Bradley's father-in-law, Bert. And I learned a lot from that man, and I still apply a lot of what I learned from him to today in the way I ride. So, all right, Skippy, I'm getting there. You got to have the background. Quit being all in, dude. Patience. So, anyway, I want you to know that there weren't that many people on KTMs in Texas, much less the entire U.S. But, we were getting there. So I decide in 85, I go to Loretta's with Dee Wood and her brother just to watch and everything. Go back in 86 and I qualify to ride Loretta's. So, yep. And so qualified, we went to Lake Whitney, and that's where we qualified. And then headed to Loretta's in the end of July, beginning of August in Tennessee. So before we do anything, I do want to show you some vintage that I still have just for fun. This was probably my favorite jersey. I loved the gray screen scheme here, 100%. This is when Malcolm Smith still owned the company and was still directly involved. So that's one of my jerseys. So there was that. My dad always called me Squirt. So you got that one. Here. I got to show you guys this one. And just be patient, Skippy. This is my Honda Town jersey. How cool is that? If you guys are old enough to remember Honda Town and Lynn Nickerson, the voice of Burleson MX, working out of Honda Town. And then I got this one. There's my fox with the zebra. And yes, I still have the pants. No, my fat butt cannot fit in them, but I've got them. All right, so Loretta's, 1986. Okay, so my KTM was timed so top dead center that it would actually start in reverse. I would kick the bike, kick it in gear, start to let the clutch out, and it would go backwards. The first time it did it to me, I looked over my shoulder. I was like, who is messing with me? Somebody's pulling on my fender. Did it a couple of more times, and that's told Dad about it. And we realized that the timing was so dead on that it would start in reverse. So I went to Loretta's, and as soon as we got there, and I was with Dee and DL and her parents, and I went straight to the KTM tent to introduce myself, and there were probably not even 10 people at Loretta's that were on KTMs, which was kind of cool. So I gave the Ohio factory mechanics that were there, they had my pit passes. They were with me on the starting line at the starting gate, which was really freaking cool. So I tell them about my issue of starting in reverse, and I'm like, oh crap, and they go, oh, we can fix that, no problem. Well, I had crashed or done something earlier where I had broken the flange where the pipe fits up into the motor, and we had JB welded that piece of metal back in there and kind of sort of JB welded the pipe on. So when they took the pipe off, it ripped that piece off the cylinder. And I flipped out because in 1986, those cylinders were still $300 because it was Nicosil. And I was like, I don't have $300. I'm just flipping out. What am I going to do? And they go, that's okay. We got them. They grab a brand new cylinder, slap it on my bike. Hey, Kirsten. Because it's a write-off for them. I got this new cylinder free. They fixed the timing. Yes, JB Weld was made back then. You're older than I am. So, of course, if you've been to nationals, you can't ride your bike anywhere. You have to push it to the starting line, or you did back then. And I had to push it over to the burn-off area, which was about a 100-yard field, kind of like a football field, where I had to break the bike in. But other than that, I just rode it, cooled it down, rode it some more. That was my break-in. That was it. I really didn't get to know what was going to happen, to how crispy and punchy the bike would be with this really fresh cylinder in it. So, practice. We come to practice, and and my bike's nickname was BC for Baby Conan, because one of the people we camped with, who was also a KTM rider, J.C. Dill, had a KTM 495, and he called it Conan because it was a beast of a bike. And mine was a mini Conan. So his name was BC, Baby Conan. Anyway, BC was running very, very well. So at that time, I'm not sure how much the track has changed over the years, but coming out of the starting gate, it's probably 75 yards before you made a hairpin right, came around, hauled butt, right, left, and then another left. Going into the other left, BC hooked up really good. And I looked up, and y'all, it's a left-hand turn, and there's a big tree, huge tree on the other side of the fence. And I knew I wasn't stopping. And I had him thrown down, ready to go into the turn. BC dug in, and that's when I high-sided, and he flipped me into the tree. And I hit the tree on my left. I still have the scar, it's above my hip, but I hit it hard. What's worse is I did some good damage to BC. I bent my handlebars down because they were steel back then. Because I had drum brakes, I bent the arm for the drum brake. You had the swing arm, and then you had another arm, actuator arm, littler one underneath it. Bent the crap out of that. I don't remember what else I tore up. I hurt myself pretty badly. it hurt to breathe in the back. I didn't break anything, but my back was tweaked. It hurt all the way up into my shoulder blade to breathe. So I got up, and it was not far from the mechanics area right there. And this big old mechanic, he just reached over the fence because my handlebar was dog-eared down. And he grabs it, and he pulls it up and straightens it. So I go run practice, and it was ugly. It hurt. It hurt to sit. It hurt to stand. It hurt to breathe. But I had to know where the track was going. And, oh my gosh. So as soon as I got done, I think I rode 2 laps of practice. I don't know. Maybe. And I went straight to the KTM guys. And they're like, no problem. They start grabbing stuff. And they start replacing whatever's bent, broken, torn up, whatever. Again, at no cost. And looking back on it now, that was such an amazing experience that I got to have. Because, I mean, they didn't have any other riders. There were just 10 of us. And I know I was the only woman, only girl, whatever, on a KTM there. So I definitely got some special preferential treatments from them. And so the side note to this is I was battling for the championship for TCCRA at the same time back home, and we were on summer break. And I was riding really well, but we'd had a bunch of mud races that year. Nothing but mud races. And no offense to motocrossers, but when it rains and gets muddy, motocrossers flip out because they're not used to riding in bad weather. Well, first moto comes. I'm still hurting pretty bad. And the way they did it was we raced 2 days in a row, had a day off, and then our third moto was the 4th day we were there. And the first moto was painful. I didn't go fast at all because it still hurts so badly to breathe. And I do got to tell you a little side note. I remember I was back in the motorhome after practice, and I was changing clothes, and I was looking at the damage. And the bruise that was already coming up on my hip was really ugly. It was already purple and black. And probably one of the best memories I'll ever have is Dee's mom, Shelly, was in the motorhome. And she didn't want to intrude, but she was checking on me. So from around the curtain, because it was an old motorhome, so, you know, the bathroom didn't have a door. It had one of those expander curtains. So from around that little expander curtain, I see this hand come around with a chocolate chip cookie in it, because she knew how much I loved chocolate chip cookies. And I will admit, I was hurting bad enough that I was kind of holding back tears. And that cookie made me smile. And then that night, I know I'm jumping around here, that night I had to make the dreaded phone call home. My dad was angry with me for having qualified at Loretta's. I did it on a weekend when he and Mom were out of town. Mom knew I was doing it. He didn't, because he hated motocross, because I'd kind of gotten hurt at motocross. Or no, I hadn't even got hurt yet. Had I? Yeah, I had. Broke a vertebra in my lower back. And racing motocross at Moser Valley night track. Anyway, he hated motocross, said it was the devil, everybody always gets hurt. So now I got to go and call home and tell him that, tell Mom and Dad that I sort of kind of crashed. And so everybody was waiting in line to use the pay phones. We didn't have cell phones back then. And so anyway, call home, and I tell Mom, I'm like, just don't tell Dad how bad it is. And so Mom covered for me. And anyway, survived that. Raced the first and second moto. Don't remember where I finished. But I will tell you this, that the night before our last moto, it's probably, 3 or 4 in the morning, and I hear pitter-patter on the roof of the motorhome. Then I hear heavy pitter-patter. It's raining. And I just get this big old grin on my face because I'm like, yes, I've been racing in mud all year long. I got this. And there was one woman that I'd met. She was from Arizona. God bless her. She hadn't seen rain in over a year, so she didn't know how to ride in the mud at all. And I will say that third moto was my best moto. And there were 35 women, 35 or 40. There were 40 slots on the gate. I was number 35. There were at least 35 of us there that rode. and I finished 18th overall. So I wasn't last. You know, that wasn't bad for a woods girl, a woods rider. I was not last, and it was still hurt to breathe, but I was getting used to it. So the third moto I rode better because everybody was fighting and struggling in the mud anyway. And I will tell you that, you know, it's a crazy experience when you see the number 1 and number 2 women racers in the U.S., motocrossers, split you as they lap you, and you're trying to decide, should I just sit and watch them? Because they're hauling butt and they look good. Skippy, I'll get you in a second, okay? So anyway, I do want to show you something that was really cool. So, of course, the KTM guys from Ohio, they loved me and they spoiled me. So I came home with this gift from them. Everybody see this and see the sleeve and everything. This was a European jersey that they had, and they gave it to me and let me bring it home. And yes, it is a valued, prized possession from because, you know, Shell was a big sponsor over in Europe. So anyway, you know, that was an amazing experience for me because I never got to go back. Because I graduated college that year. It was 1986. And I was starting my career as a coach and a teacher. And I never, ever got to go back, qualify and do it again because I was coaching volleyball. 2-a-days are in August and never got that opportunity again. So it was a really amazing experience and one that I'm glad to share with you. The picture that I posted for y'all, that was from Loretta's. And, you know, back then we didn't take a lot of pictures. We didn't have cell phones and stuff. So I don't have that many pictures from Loretta's. But anyway, that's my Loretta's experience. It was amazing. It was cool. And of course I had to find a way to smack a tree while I was there because I do that very well. But, all right, so let's bring Skippy in and let's hear what he has to say. Of course, y'all, Skippy's a motocrosser. So, please don't compare me to him at all because I don't jump and I don't ride like Skippy does. Skippy's also a cherry picker on occasion, sandbagger, you know. All right. So we're going to bring Skippy in 30 years later. So that would be 86, 96, 06, 2016 you went? Hey, Skip.
Hey, what up? How are y'all?
Hey, so when did you go?
I went in 2014, actually, but I did it on a 300XC, so I did it on a woods bike.
Why? Why would you do that? That's a lead sled.
So I actually did race a lot of off-road from Torx in 07 to, I raced a full season of Torx and had an epic battle with my buddy Clayton Clark in 2010, and then did a lot of moto and, you know, in between and grew up riding moto. And I only wanted to go to Loretta's because my brother never did it. My oldest brother's my hero. And my oldest brother never went to Loretta's. He went 1-1 DNF at his regional and never made it. And so, yeah, all I ever want to do is just be better than my older brother, right? And so, so I got I actually got pretty messed up in a moto crash and sold my 450, and I was like, you know what, I want to go have some more fun in the woods, so I bought a 300XC. Rode it in trails, and then I took it on at the local moto track, and I was like, man, this thing rides pretty good on the motocross track. Like, it's pretty good. And so I went and did some suspension and did some engine stuff, and I was like, man, I feel pretty good. Like, I think I might, let's go put some time on the motocross track. And my best friend, Andy Jones, actually, I went and did the area qualifier or whatever. That was easy to qualify for. But a week before the regional, my best friend, what up, dog? My best friend, Andy Jones, broke his neck out at Three Palms where the regional actually was. Mm-hmm. And I was in the hospital with him. I was like, you know what, dude, I'm gonna go to that track next weekend. I'm gonna beat some dudes, and I'm gonna do some gangster stuff. I'm gonna go make some stuff happen, and we're gonna do it next weekend. And you're gonna be in the hospital, and I'm gonna do it for you, buddy. And that's my motivation. So I show up, to where the regional is, and Robbie Raynard, Taylor Painter, Jeffrey Fisher out of West Texas, and like bad dudes are on the line. And I'm like Derek Kemp, Kyle Phoenix. A lot of these guys have Supercross main events under their hand.
Right.
And I'm on my 300XC still. I got an 18-inch rear wheel still and all this stuff. And showed up to the regional. And I tell you what, I actually enjoyed the regional a lot more than I enjoyed actually being at Loretta's.
Really?
Yeah, I think just, you know, when I went to Loretta's, I didn't have my family with me. I didn't have friends with me. I just had a couple of buddies, couple you know, people that just had a 18-wheeler that, or a fifth wheel that I stayed in. So didn't have the same camaraderie there.
Right. Oh yeah, definitely.
But the qualifier was great, and I went 5, 6, 7 to get 6 overall to get to the regional, or to get to Loretta's rather. And it was pretty cool. I got a question. Back then, did they have the poker chips?
No, and also back then, we only rode the regional qualifier. It wasn't big enough for an area qualifier, so I only had to ride one qualifier.
Okay, so whenever I did it, there's 8 areas, and they take the top 8.
Yeah.
And then 8 different areas go to the regional. So of that, only 6 different people leave the regional to go to Loretta's. So that means 2 people that won their area qualifiers aren't going to Loretta's. And I think whenever I was there, they announced like 22 or 23,000 people try to qualify for Loretta's, and only like 1,400 make it.
Yeah, so that's something. And see, back then, I'm pretty sure we didn't even have a full gate for the women. And they still had all of the age classes, you know, plus the youth classes and whatnot. And I know those were all probably full gates, but yeah, it wasn't as big as it was when you went. So
yeah, it's evolved tremendously, you know, and that's but hearing the story with the KTM and all that, it's funny because I pulled up on a KTM 300XC and my bike was too fast. Like, I told him, like, yo, like that track is super tight and super backyardish and very hard to find a flow on. By the third moto, you know, I did a little better and ended up in the 20th something. I think I got like I stacked my trash in DNF first moto. I went like 39, 31, 21, I think is what I did. And but I mean, what was funny was Jet Reynolds on his KX65 had the same lap time as I did. And I was racing in plus 25 class.
Yeah.
But at the same time, Robbie Raynard and Ricky Renner, who won our class, he had a better lap time than all the pros, and I think Justin Bogle won that year, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah.
And it was nuts though. But I mean, the environment was unbelievable. It's a good time. It's cool to do, but I tell you what, like, there's a lot of people that look at Loretta's as something that's so difficult and so gnarly, and it is, but it's definitely a much more reachable goal than I think people put it out there to be.
Yeah, the big thing is having the money to be able to get there, and then it's putting in the work to make it through the qualifiers. You know, now, like you were saying, you had 2 area winners who didn't qualify. The competition's a lot tougher now because Supercross is mainstream. You also got to remember that when I went, Supercross was only in its very baby stage.
10 years in, 10, 12 years in,
Yeah, and at that point, arena cross was still pretty big. So there was arena cross going on at the same time. And so really the only people who went to Supercross were the people who knew about it. Back then, we had the treadhead seats in Cowboy Stadium, the one that's been torn down, $10. We went to watch Supercross in the treadhead seats.
So, but I also want to point out something. My boy Jay Webb just talked. That's talking about bad dude. It's one of the most talented people that nobody will ever meet. Jason's a damn good rider. And he's really fast, specifically at our local track here. one of the reasons why I actually decided back in January is even before, whenever the Loretta's schedule gets released, it talks about where the regionals are going to be. When I found out that the adult / amateur regionals were going to be at Three Palms, most of the time Three Palms has the youth for the kiddos. When I found out that the adult regional and the amateur regional was going to be at Three Palms, I was like, dude, like, I get good starts, and once I get a good starts, there's not going to be a lot of places to pass on that track.
Yeah. Well, and that's the thing about motocross. The start is so crucial. Hey, Nathan.
And that's my thing. No, what's funny is that what made me so confident was I've been riding so much off-road. Mm-hmm. Guess what happened in the second and third moto?
It rained.
And monsoon.
Yep.
It was nasty, and I was dialed. I was ready to go, and I was confident, and I knew I was going to get a good start, and it was pretty crazy. But it's funny because the actual experience of being at Loretta's is extremely similar to what yours was, damn near 30 years prior. And the camaraderie and the it was funny, though, because whenever I went to KTM and I asked for a different power valve spring, they didn't have anything on hand.
Well, because of what you were riding, if it had been for a 125 or a 250, they'd been like, yeah, we got that, or, whatever. But it was pretty crazy that the difference between your experience and my experience was actually very, very similar being there. Mm-hmm. But the qualifying was quite different, so it's pretty intense. Yeah. I can't believe you don't have one of these. You got the bib, right? I still have my bib. I do. I still have my bib. Cool. They weren't doing those yet. It was.
Obviously, I had a terrible gate pick in my first moto. That was actually my best gate pick because I did so garbage in the first and second moto that my first 20th, I went 39, like I said, 39, 31, like 21 or something. I got smoked.
And that's just it. Is I don't even know my my finishes, my individual moto finishes.
I won't ever forget. So I just know that I wish there was a 10 moto format because I kept getting better and better. So.
Well, I've hit my head a few times since then, so there's probably been some corrupt data, lost some data along the way, but. Yep.
Well, hey, I also do want to give a huge shout out while I'm on here to Fly Racing, Western Power Sports. I'm actually doing a contest right now. Mm-hmm. If you go to a local motorcycle shop and if you post a picture of being at a motorcycle shop and you tag X-Brand Goggles, as well as myself and the dealership that you're at, I'm giving away X-Brand Goggles and some tear-offs.
Okay.
And I'll ship it to anywhere in the U.S. So if you guys, please go see your local dealerships and post it up, hashtag XBrand contest, and tag myself, and I will send you some free goggles if you're the winner. We're going to be announcing the winner on Friday. But yeah, go support your local motorcycle dealerships and Fly Racing. Best gear out there, bro.
Hey, J-Web, don't worry. I'm going to charge him for this plug later. So
yeah.
Well, awesome, Skippy. Thanks. It's really cool getting the two perspectives. That's awesome. I appreciate it. So
absolutely.
All right, you stay safe. Hug the baby and the wife for me, and I'm gonna finish this out later.
All right, party on.
Yeah. So anyway, that was Skippy. That was pretty cool. It's definitely an experience, and there are opportunities that we get to ride. Ricky Thompson asked me on Instagram, he said, what other things do I have on my bucket list as far as riding goes? And you know what? I've never made a bucket list. It's just opportunities presented themselves, and I was in the position to say, yeah, I'm going to do it. So I was in the position to go to Loretta's, so I did it, and I'm glad because, like I said, never had a chance to go back and do it. So glad that I hung out with Liana and drove road trip to New York last year with JC to do her Makeup to Mud segment with her. We've made lifelong friends and contacts and connections all over the country now because of motorcycles and dirt bikes. So anyway, I do want to give you just a little epilogue. Here's my English teacher in me. For the rest of that season, 1986 was an awesome year for me. I graduated from college, first person in my family to do so. Went to Loretta's, lived to tell the tale. And actually, I came back from Loretta's and I asked Crazy Ray. Crazy Ray was on I think it was at a 590, something like that. It was a huge KTM, and Crazy Ray was my height, 540. I don't know, somebody have to correct me on that one. And I said, Ray, how do you think I'm going to do the rest of the year? And he looked at me and he said, you're not going to lose another race. And I looked at him, he said, you're riding that well. And I had to win the remainder of the races after coming back from summer break in Loretta's to be able to win the championship. And I did. So I added to 1986 that my first state championship, or whatever you want to call it, with TCCRA. So it was a great year. It was a great experience. And I still have my pit pass. It's in my, I made a kind of a scrapbook. So I still have my pit pass from that too. Don't have the little puck like what Skippy had though. Anyway, guys, there's one other thing I want to talk about. This might ruffle some feathers and step on some toes. Y'all, I know we're all jonesing to ride. I know it. I understand that, but a friend of mine pointed out that if we all go riding and we're social distancing because we're on our dirt bikes, and I've already seen the memes about you're distancing yourself because you're on your bike and all, it's great therapy. Y'all, what if we get hurt while we're riding? Hurt enough that we have to go to the hospital. Think about that. Then we are taking resources away from people who really need our hospital resources right now. So please, y'all, I want to be on my bike as much as the rest of y'all. And I'm sorry if I offend you, but please rethink going riding right now. Our hospitals are already strained and stressed, and the worst of this virus has not hit yet. So be careful, be smart, be safe, take care of yourself. Yeah, Claw, I know, just don't get hurt. And when I ride like that, that's when I get hurt, unfortunately. So I'm just saying, be smart about what y'all do. Besides that, Dallas County's already in lockdown. Austin's fixing to go lockdown. San Antonio's going lockdown. So, just be safe, be smart. Definitely wash your hands, all of that stuff. That's my PSA for the day. But for anybody who joined late, this will be available for 24 hours. And then I will download it and I will post it up to YouTube, so that you can catch all of it if you missed it or whatever. Any day we get to ride is a good day right now. I know that. And I wish I was Justin Barsha and had my own private test track and stuff. So, yes, Joe does have that new fly helmet, by the way, Claw. Other than that, y'all, I'm going to step out now. Thanks for joining in. And I'm going to try to keep doing the lives. I hope it's helping you guys, just had given you something to look forward to, somebody else's face to look at, especially if you're at home in lockdown isolation. But just remember, y'all, we want to live to ride another day. So let's be careful and be smart. Love y'all. DMs are open if you need me for anything. Okay, guys? Thanks for joining in. Thanks to Skippy and his plug. Don't forget what he said. And J-Web. Nice to meet you tonight. And all my other new people who joined in tonight. Take care, y'all. Be safe.